3. I've got a message just for you. That is what authors say when they're writing a text, which is why in this power standard we're focusing on Common Core Standard 10.2, where we determine the theme or central idea of a text. Now typically when we talk about theme, we're talking about works of fiction, short stories, novels, things like that. Or when we talk about central idea, we're talking about nonfiction texts like informational texts, editorials, magazine articles, things like that. The second thing we do with Common Core Standard 10.2 is we have to analyze how the theme or central idea, develops through the text. We want to analyze it from the start to the finish. Like on 5, please? Well, first part is you're going to find the message in either a fiction or nonfiction text. Then you'll figure out how it comes alive in the text from the start to the finish. So, why do we need to know this skill? Well, of course, 1, it helps you understand the author's point of view, decisions, choices, and the author's state of mind when they're writing a text. 2, it allows you to see the bigger picture or the purpose behind the text. A writer doesn't write anything without having a reason. And typically when a writer writes something, they have a theme or a central idea in mind that they want you to grasp onto. VIP number 1, it's why the text exists. Theme and central idea is why the text exists. Some important things to know. Theme is not stated, but implied. The author is never going to say, hey, this is the theme. Sometimes in informational text you may get that, but 90% of the time the theme is never, or central idea is never stated. It's always implied. You got to read between the lines. Another thing to know, VIP number 2, one text can have multiple themes. It'd be pretty boring if it had one, so typically you find different themes in the text. That makes for a richer story. Third thing, themes are often recognizable. We're going to do what we call a theme shakedown, and you're going to recognize some common themes. And it's the most important lesson that you're going to get out of reading the text. Like I said, it's why the author wrote the text in the first place. So, theme shakedown. So, there are 4 concepts behind themes, or 4 common areas of themes. The first one is concepts or ideas. Typically, VIP number 4, you're going to see this in works of fiction. So you have concepts or ideas like friendship, teamwork, responsibility, family. In Julius Caesar, Brutus was known as an honorable man. And William Shakespeare has a common concept or theme that rolls across in Julius Caesar, responsibility. He even touches on friendship. The second type is traits or qualities, also typically seen in works of fiction. Traits like courage, compassion, integrity, kindness. Typically when an author uses traits for themes, he's going to particularly focus on one character, and you're going to see that character identified with that trait. So, courage. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh and Enkidu have courage, compassion, kindness for each other as they are best friends. The third type of theme on our theme shakedown is isms, beliefs, morals, and standards, a person's ethos. VIP number 3, you're typically going to see this in informational texts, magazine articles, editorials, things like that. So you have topics like racism, feminism, optimism, sexism. And then the last one, bumper sticker sayings. These are your broad themes where you identify the theme and then you come up with a bumper sticker saying that will basically represent the entire text. So, VIP number 5 though, it can be used for either informational text or fiction text. So some bumper sticker sayings are like, treat others the way you want to be treated. Early to bed, early to rise. Beauty is skin deep. Be prepared. A good bumper sticker saying for Julius Caesar would be, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. So now let's focus on the informational text side of our power standard, which is central idea. Some things to know. One, it's found in informational text or nonfiction text. Two, it refers to the main or crucial point of the text, i.e. central. Third, central idea is typically not the topic of the text. I could be writing about Valley Forge, what happened at Valley Forge, but that's not my central, that's my topic. It doesn't represent, that's my central idea. And typically the central idea in a text can be summed up in one sentence, or even fewer than that, maybe 1 to 2 words. So how can we identify central idea? Well, we use a winner strategy. First we look at the who and what. Find the most important who's and what's in the sentence. Then we go to I, information. Find the most important info about the who and about the what. Number, write the central idea in the least number of words. And then lastly, you want to ask, what is the most crucial point? So remember, with central idea, it refers to the main or crucial point. It's not the topic of the text, it's the overall main idea. And it can be summed up in one sentence. How do we find the central idea? We're going to use a winner strategy. Now let's focus on theme. Theme is typically in works of fiction. Theme is the lesson or the message about life and human nature. The theme of Julius Caesar, honor above ambition. Can someone be too ambitious? That's talking about life and about human nature. That was the essence of Julius Caesar. So what does the writer do? The writer embeds the theme into his or her literary work. Remember, theme is never stated but always implied. The writer wants you to delve through the setting and the plot and the conflict and the characters and the theme to figure out what is the theme. So VIP number 6, the author wants you to apply it to your life. And if I could go even further, the author wants you to figure it out so that you can apply it to your life. And as we've stated repeatedly, theme is typically found in pieces of fiction. So the writer helps you find the theme by building the theme into the story. How does they do that? They use author's choices or short story elements, I like to call them. Characters, actions, the plot, the setting, and the conflict. Combined with theme, that's going to give you a very great, exciting short story. So, how do we find the theme? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to do a theme shakedown. We want to look for concepts, traits, and then isms. What concepts do we see? What traits do we see embodied by the character's actions? What isms do we see come alive in it? Then we want to look for lessons learned by the main characters. Remember, there are different character types. You have the protagonist, which is the main character. You have the antagonist, which is who is fighting against the main character. And then you have static and dynamic characters. Now, the characters we want to focus on are our dynamic characters, the characters that change, the characters that learn. How do they learn? They learn by lessons and going through conflict. Once we find the lessons, that's typically where we're going to find the everyday. And what do I mean by the everyday? Find the everyday lesson or life or human nature situation that we see in our everyday life. And then finally, VIP number 7, we use these 3 to find the bumper sticker saying. So you're going to use all 4 of those theme shakedowns that I discussed to help you find the theme in the text. And honestly, it's really not that hard. You see the theme from the moment you begin the text. That's why one part of the power standard is to see how it develops and emerges. informational text. When we get to the practice activity sheet, we'll be doing a little bit more with literature. So, let's try. Here's some key tips to remember. Step 1, identify the text type. Are you working with a informational text or a literary text, i.e. a work of fiction? Step 2, do a shakedown. Concepts, traits, isms, bumper sticker. 3, follow the deets, aka the details. And then 4, do a winner strategy. The who, the information, the least number of words, and then ask, what is the central idea? So let's do this one. The winner at Valley. So remember, step 1, you always want to read the question. Which of the following is not a supporting detail for the main idea? So I know I'm looking for the one that is not. So let's read the text. The winter at Valley Forge was a difficult time for the American troops. They were fighting for American independence from Britain. Supplies of food and clothing were scarce. Some of the soldiers were barefoot and got frostbite. Others were starving to death. Many of the men were ill. In addition, there were not enough horses and wagons to bring supplies. So, which the following is not a supporting detail for the main idea? Well, first we got to identify the main idea. Now, sometimes in informational text, the main idea is typically in the first sentence. The winter at Valley Forge was a difficult time for the troops. Now, the topic of our sentence clearly is the winter at Valley Forge. But what's the main or central idea? It's probably that it was difficult. So what details support that main idea that it was difficult? Food and clothing were scarce. That would make it a difficult time. There were not enough horses. That would also make it a difficult time, wouldn't it? Men were ill. That would make it a difficult time. All the men died. Would all the men dying really make it a difficult time more than these 3? If this winter, food and clothing are probably going to be scarce. But would that make it difficult? There were not enough horses and men were ill. Definitely B and C would definitely make it difficult. So we're really stuck between A and D. So, which one supports the main idea more that it was a difficult time for the American troops? A or D? What do you think? Go ahead and answer the question. So, if you said A, food and clothing were scarce, you were absolutely correct. The reason why it's A and not D, why they're both good choices, the fact that all the men died would make it even a more difficult time for the American troops. Why? Because they were fighting a war. The more men that died, the more tougher it would be for them to win that war. The fact that they didn't have food and clothing would not really make it that much difficult. So that's why the answer is A. Let's look at number 2. What's the main idea of the passage? Since we've done this, we've done our due diligence, we clearly know that the main idea is the winter at Valley Forge was a difficult time for the American troops. Now, when we do our theme shakedown, that is a concept or idea, difficulty. And then lastly, what's the central theme of the passage? Difficult time, food and clothing, death, or American independence. What do you think? So we know it's not food or clothing. Once again, it's going to be A. All right, let's go to the next one. One more to go. We have 2 questions. What is the central theme of the passage? What sentence is the main idea of the passage? Here we go. On March 5th, serious trouble erupted. A group of sailors and small boys threw snowballs at the redcoat soldiers who were stationed in Boston. The harmless snowballs made the soldiers angry. As a result, The soldiers began to fire into the crowd. When it was over, 3 Americans were dead and 2 others died later of their wounds. The Boston Massacre became one of the reasons the Americans wanted independence from Britain. So, what is the central theme of the passage? Well, it's not soldiers and it's not sailors. The Boston Massacre is an event, so it can't be a theme because that's not a trait, it's not a concept, it's not an ism, and it's not a bumper sticker saying. So we're literally left with the concept that Americans died, aka death. The clear central theme is that death happened. So what sentence is the main idea of the passage above? On March 5th, serious trouble erupted. A group of sailors, when it was over, 3 Americans were dead. The Boston Massacre became one of the reasons. So I think we could eliminate B, and definitely we could eliminate C. What else could we eliminate? Look at it and think about it. So I think the overall main idea is
Good morning, Lieutenant.
is that we're probably going to go with
Please be advised
D.
that the plan for recoding